All right, good afternoon, everybody. Today we have Oregon State University to talk about their engineering program. But before that, let's do check-in. As you know, you have to check in so that your teachers know that you are here. And if you have questions, this is a great questions document that you can reference to. And the evaluation form. This is how we track your attendance and give you credit. If the QR codes doesn't work, we will have the bit.ly link posted in the chat. And be fully present, pay attention. This is the time that you can ask questions about their program, what's engineering life is at Oregon State. And again, this is the QR code for your evaluation. This is a requirement for you to graduate. So we'll have Sarah to do explain to us what is an engineering program at OSU.
Awesome. Thank you. Hello, everyone. So my name is Sarah Kylo. I am the first year head advisor for the College of Engineering at Oregon State University. So what that kind of means is that myself and a team of 4 other advisors work with students kind of from the time of potentially questions when they're still in high school, but really from the orientation process of signing up for classes and through the students' first year before they kind of declare their major and move on to a school-specific advisor. And we also have Saeed Rosado from Oregon State here as well. I don't know if she just wants to pop in later or if she wants to introduce herself.
I can introduce myself briefly. Hi, everyone. Sorry, I was just eating a pretzel right now. Hi, everyone. My name is Saeed Rosado. Pronouns are she, her. And I work in the College of Engineering here also at OSU. I mostly work to recruit students to our college. So if you're thinking and considering OSU as a potential place that you want to come to, then I help you, answer questions for you as you make those very important decisions. So I'm happy to be here. I'll just kind of be in the background because Sarah's going to be presenting all of it. But if you have questions, I'll be around as well. Thank you, Sarah.
Perfect. Awesome. So I am gonna share my screen and pull up a brief presentation. Okay, so like I mentioned, to be pretty brief, I just kind of wanted to give a little bit of an overview of kind of what our program looks like at the College of Engineering at Oregon State. If any of you have questions along the way, totally fine to throw those in the chat. I'll try to keep track of those. Maybe questions about OSU specific or just engineering in general, or other questions that you might have about admissions process, timelines, things like that. Feel free to throw those in the chat. So just a little bit of a background about OSU's College of Engineering program. It is a really large program, so it does have a lot of benefits. It does have a few drawbacks. It's not a program that you necessarily know everyone or faculty member, but there are lots of opportunities to get to know people, as well as because of its size, there's just tons of opportunities. We have a lot of research funding. We have a lot of really cool things going on. We have a lot of really skilled and knowledgeable faculty members, and our students do really amazing things. So we have the 10th largest College of Engineering in the United States, and we have lots of tenure faculty members. So those are our faculty members that have gone through the whole tenure process. We do have 17 majors. That is kind of a divided. 2 of those majors are only at our Oregon State campus out in Bend, but we do have 15 in Corvallis, as well as the opportunity to do computer science completely online. If that's something that you kind of like the format of, you could potentially do that from wherever you're living. And we are the #1 of computer science degrees, and part of that is because we also offer that through eCampus. And so students who have gone through a different path decide maybe they want to do computer science, and they can do that program online also. So this is a list of all of the engineering majors that we do cover at Oregon State University. As you can see, there are a lot of them, and some of them might be things that you haven't heard of before. Certainly, like at the end, if you have questions about any of these, let me know. What we do at Oregon State is we divide up our majors into schools, and that helps us kind of make it a little bit smaller and kind of easier for students as well as faculty to kind of work together in similar fields. So for example, mechanical engineering, many of you have probably heard mechanical engineering. That's a school with manufacturing and industrial engineering, as well as sort of energy system, which is also at Cascade. So that's part of the School of MME. Some of our programs like ecological engineering are kind of standalone programs, but some of them are definitely connected together within a school. And so for our students that are coming in as first year students, you can definitely know what major you want to go into. You can also have no idea or be deciding between a few of these things. And then typically the student's second year, they'll work directly with an advisor, declare their major, and kind of go from there towards graduation. On here, the ones that are with an asterisk, those are the ones that are offered just at our campus in Cascades. So we do have outdoor products and engineering science, which is sort of kind of like a general engineering type major, and then energy systems, which is also at OSU Cascades. So if living in Bend is something that interests you, you could definitely consider that if you're considering engineering. So one of the nice things about our program at OSU and engineering is that we do really encourage students to explore their majors. Some engineering schools only have maybe, computer science, civil, and mechanical, and those are pretty easy for most students to kind of understand what those are, and they're pretty straightforward. But we do have lots of majors at our college, like architectural or ecological, which are a little bit less common and maybe a little bit more specifically tailored on the type of work that you would be doing. So within the first year, we really want students to kind of have an open mind, to kind of maybe be thinking of things that they hadn't thought of, and to kind of think of more along the lines of the types of problems they want to solve, the kind of things that they want to be doing, versus getting so set on just becoming a certain type of engineer. So that we do have a program for our first year, which is called General Engineering. It is a major that we kind of put all of our first year students in. So if you do apply to Oregon State, you'll be doing an application. It will let you choose whichever major you want. One of the cool things about the program also is that we don't have any quotas or specific engineering specific admissions processes. So if you apply to Oregon State, you get accepted. You can declare any major within the College of Engineering, but we do kind of then put our first year students into the general engineering year as sort of a placeholder for first year. And it's not that you can't start your engineering major early if you want to, but we really encourage students to be in general engineering for their first year. All the other first year students, the same major, and then that also allows students to change their mind really easily. You don't have to change your major at all in the first year. You'll just stay in general engineering. But then by the spring term, you'll declare whatever engineering major you want. So if you want to join computer science, but you thought initially you were going to do mechanical, that's totally fine. You'll work with advisors to make sure that you're on track. Curriculum is a little bit different depending on which major you're choosing. You can probably imagine that chemical engineering is different than computer science. So we do, for the most part, have a lot of common classes that students take in their first year. But when you do advising, I'll only be asking you what kind of major or majors you're thinking of, just to make sure that you're taking kind of the correct classes towards that major. But for the most part, really easy to be exploring in your first year and be deciding late as you go, kind of which area of engineering is going to be the best fit for you. So part of that is we've created something really cool, and we just started this year actually. We've kind of branded it as Engineering Plus. So what this means is that we want our students to not just be doing engineering in the classroom, but to have all these other experiences in their first year that hopefully they will also continue to have throughout their entire time in engineering. If your goal is to be an engineer and you come to college and you just go to class, get a 4.0 and do nothing else and apply for jobs, you might get a good job. But for the most part, there's lots of other engineers that are graduating that also have good GPAs. And so what we found is really important and what people are looking for when they're hiring engineers is that they have other things on top of that. So some of that is the ability to work on teams, the ability to communicate well with a diverse group of people, the ability to explain science to non-science folks, the ability to maybe talk about undergraduate research projects you've done or internships that you've done or being a leader in a club or going on a trip to somewhere to demonstrate what you've learned. So all of these things are kind of in addition to what you learn in the classroom. What you learn in the classroom is very important. We have great faculty members that are really good at teaching. But Engineering Plus kind of starts students off with this idea that college is about a lot more than just classroom, and within engineering, that's definitely true as well. So our students will take a course each term during their first year, and I'll kind of explain that on the next slide. But in addition to that, there's lots of things going on as part of that experience. So we do have lots of clubs and organizations at Oregon State. I think as a campus in general, several hundred. Within College of Engineering, it's a little bit over 50 different student clubs and organizations that are always changing. Students can also create their own club, which is pretty cool. Part of the experience also is that each term we have different keynote speakers or alumni come and talk to us for our students that are in their first year. One of the benefits, as I mentioned earlier, about being a really large college is that we do have really great alumni, and that can help students do some job shadowing or learn about other jobs or internships. And then alumni can also share their own experiences, which is super valuable. We're wanting our students also to kind of get involved in thinking about their career pathway and how to apply for jobs or internships early on. I think in the past, students would wait until they're about to graduate to start working on a resume, and it's kind of too late at that point just to be starting that process. So we kind of want that embedded throughout the first year and beyond so that it's something that students are learning about early and then they're just adding to as they go throughout their time at Oregon State. So we do also have different workshops, industry visits or tours, and we have some hands-on experiences offered through places called maker spaces, which is basically a big space where you make stuff. Pretty easy to kind of potentially visualize what that looks like, but a lot of different tools, you know, like soldering irons or things where you actually get to make stuff, which is a huge part of engineering, depending on, you know, the major that you're doing. So to kind of help students understand all of that stuff and to help them explore their fit and to have conversations about what they're learning. We also do have our professional advisors that students work with each term also. And so we also, as advisors, are helping students navigate OSU in general, navigate the transition from high school to college, which is a huge part of the first year, and kind of just serve as a central resource. There's definitely a lot to know about when you go to college, and I think even more so when you join a really large college. So it's nice to have you know, some key contact people to make that a little bit easier as you go through the process. Okay, like I mentioned, we do now have students take the same courses throughout their first year. So in addition to this, students are definitely taking math classes, they're taking chemistry, potentially starting in physics at the end of the year. They're taking other skills courses like freshman composition or speech classes and things like that. But fall term, students are all taking the same orientation class, which is our Engineering 100. And in winter, they're doing 102, which is a class focused more on design thinking and problem solving. And a big part of that class is working in teams, creating a term project, presenting on it. And then spring term is computation, algorithmic thinking. So this is where students are learning some coding, C++ or Python, regardless of what major they're wanting to go into. That's kind of an important skill for students to learn. And I can share this presentation if needed afterwards. There is a link on our website for the course topics that have been taught this year. So if anyone's curious of what these sections look like, I can also pull up that website after the presentation. But there are different sections for each of these classes. And so while you're in the same Engineering 100, it's also separated by the faculty member who's teaching it in a way kind of based on a certain focus area or problem. So some examples are like clean water. And so you might be taking a class that's focused on clean water. It has the same learning outcomes as a student that's taking a class about sustainability in building. And so even though it looks a little bit different, you're still learning the same things. But if you do find that you have a certain interest or something that you know you want to work on, or a major that is really interesting to you, you can kind of still tailor your experience towards that major or towards that kind of passion that you have. And so we do have students who definitely come into Oregon State knowing that they want to become a computer scientist and they don't change their mind in the entire year. And that's totally fine. And they can try to find a section that appeals to them. And they can also be working on their project in terms of that interest. So if you're working with a group and your project is on creating electric vehicles, the computer science type student can be working on some of that coding computer side of the car versus someone who's maybe interested in the mechanical side, looking at the design of the actual vehicle. So real world engineering is a lot about working with other engineers, and a lot of that is people that are from different disciplines. So if you work at Boeing, for example, and you want to work on airplanes, you can kind of imagine that there's people whose background is computer science, there's people whose background is more the actual, like, how to create a plane that's aerodynamic and more of the mechanical side of things. And there's a lot of electrical stuff going on. So sort of the idea of this Engineering Plus is that it sort of mimics what you would see more in the real world, where you're working with not just 100 other computer scientists, you're probably working with people that are coming from all sorts of different backgrounds. And some of those skills of just like communication and teamwork are going to be really important in the future. So it's pretty cool that you have an opportunity to start practicing those things in your first year. So one other nice thing that we do at Oregon State in the College of Engineering for first year students, as well as students who are older than first years, is we do require our first year students to live on campus. And so students in engineering can live in any of the residence halls, but we do offer a living learning community. And what that means is it's basically a way to live with your peers that are also have similar common things in mind as you do. And so for engineering, kind of our residence halls that focus on students who are planning to do engineering are in Holly, Buxton, and Cawthorn. And so if you do apply to Oregon State and you're doing engineering, that's an option. If you want to have a roommate that's not planning to do engineering, that's also fine. But we kind of preference at least one person in the room to be an engineering major. And within that space, we also have a makerspace, which is free. You have 24-hour access. And so this photo is actually from the makerspace, somebody doing something with their skateboard. But we have things like soldering irons, laser printing, t-shirt makers. We share it with the College of Business, so it's kind of a combination of things that students learn how to use. If you don't know how to use it, someone is there to teach you how to use it. So some of the benefits of living there is just, it's a great way to meet other students who are also interested in engineering. It's a great way to have study groups. Most of our students are taking the same math classes, the same chemistry classes, and some of those can be hard. And so it's really nice to have somebody maybe down the hall that you can go to a lounge and study with. And then we do have specific events for our students that are engineering themed, usually at least once per term, where we might bring in faculty or we might bring in a student panel or something like that. So kind of the whole idea is that you're there to live, but you're also learning from your classes, but you're learning from each other, as well as kind of the events that are added on top of that. So just something to keep in mind too, if you are thinking that you'll go to Oregon State, and you can definitely check out that as an option for where you want to live. Before, we do have lots of student clubs and organizations, and we have student groups that are going, out and shooting off rockets in the desert. We have groups that are more affinity based on identity. So kind of the cool part again about being somewhere really big is that it's pretty easy to find like-minded people to connect with. And like I mentioned, if you are interested in something and you don't find a club, you just have to find a few other friends and an advisor, and you can start your own club or organization. So we definitely want our students to get involved. Getting involved early just helps you get connected to other students and also just feel like it's a place where you really belong and you're learning from other people. So wherever you end up after high school, I definitely would encourage you to look into different clubs and organizations. It's a great way to kind of expand your interests and to start like building a network of friends and other people that you can use for support. That was a fairly quick presentation, but I wanted to leave a lot of time for questions. And then also before I'm gonna copy this link from Saeed to share in the chat. So if you do have any interest, you want to follow up with us, you want to maybe take a campus tour or connect with an advisor, you can definitely do that through this link, and I will make sure to copy that and paste that into the chat. So any questions that anyone has?
Well, I had a question. I feel like students might have this one too. You said you had 17 engineering programs. Is there any way, or did you guys like have a page where you guys can like get a good explanation of what each one is separately, or so they can just understand, what are the options?
We do, yeah. Let me copy this link also, and then I'll pull up that page. We have lots of different pages, but the one that I'll just kind of bring up is specific towards like our first year students. So this has our advising contact. So again, you can email, students can email any of us if they have questions. On this page, we do have the different curriculum guides. So this, if you're interested in a certain major and you're kind of wondering what types of classes you'd be taking, we have these kind of laid out for each term of what a sample plan looks like. It's very rare that we have students completely follow this each term through graduation. But for the most part, it gives students a good idea of kind of what to expect in terms of how many math classes they're taking, how many classes of chemistry or physics they're taking, and then also like third and fourth year, what kind of classes they're doing. So it's kind of, not every student might find this helpful, but especially if their students are doing like or things like that, you know, and coming into college with a lot of credit, this can kind of just help students see where they'd start at. But again, advisors can definitely help with that. And then there's also on this page, the kind of the types of engineering. So if you just wanted to read about kind of what a bioengineer does, types of jobs a certain engineer would do, this is a good kind of starting place. There's also lots of great things online that you can find in terms of just, you know, what does a medical engineer tend to do. That's a few resources on there. The other thing that's is the Engineering Plus website, which kind of referenced in the presentation. This gives students idea of the types of sections that were offered last fall. So I imagine that they're going to be pretty similar going forward, but there'll be some changes. But students, you know, if they're interested in kind of seeing what types of classes our students were taking in terms of their Engineering 100 sections, you can definitely check that out. So yeah, I don't know if Saeed, if you have any other recommendations for good websites.
Yes, I mean, the ones that you shared are great, and yeah, like students can read about the different majors there. We also have another page here that I'm also going to put in the chat. So that one also lists all of our majors, and each of the majors are hyperlinked to the actual majors page. So, you know, you can quickly click on a few links there, and it'll also take you to the actual page for that major. So yeah, that's maybe another place that they can go to.
Perfect. So back to chat questions. What do students need to prepare now to go into engineering programs? Is there certain grade requirements to be accepted into the engineering program? So there are no certain grade requirements to be accepted into engineering at Oregon State. Like I mentioned, as long as you are accepted into Oregon State University, you can join engineering. So there are some, you know, high school requirements that OSU has in terms of preparation from high school, which can be found on OSU admissions page, or let us know if you have questions about that. I would say in terms of being prepared to do engineering, we have students come from all sorts of backgrounds. We have students who don't have the same opportunities necessarily in high school to do AP credit or dual credit, or take, you know, differential calculus and some of these things that other students have, and that's totally fine. The great thing about our program is that there is flexibility, and regardless of where students kind of coming in at, they can still be taking that Engineering 100 orientation class. But if you have the opportunity to, I would say the biggest thing for preparation would be to take as much math as you can in high school, potentially to take some chemistry. It's helpful. If you know, have the opportunity to take some physics, that's awesome. We have students, you know, a lot of our students will come in with AP credit for like freshman composition, or just, you know, AP history or things like that. And all of that is useful because it saves you time and money at OSU to kind of have some of those degree requirements met before you come to college. But again, if you don't have that opportunity, that's okay. You can still join, and we'll kind of help you get up to that point of, you know, being able to take differential calculus or whatever that class is. We do have lots of great supportive resources and tutoring and things like that for students that do find that they maybe didn't learn all of the same things in high school during their first term, or if they, you know, everyone learns in different ways. So we do have lots of opportunities, and we're definitely focused on success. It's not that we're trying to weed out students or, you know, try to convince them that they can't be engineers. We want any student that's interested in being an engineer to be successful. And we definitely have students who come and think they want to do engineering, and then they decide they don't want to, and that's totally fine too. But we definitely just want to help students get connected to whatever's the best fit for them.
So I do see in the chat, Glenn had a great question, and that was, if you take an IB chemistry course in high school, do you still have to take a chemistry course in college? And I think that's something that's a little confusing, how AP and IB credits work.
Yeah, it is a little bit confusing. And so we do have kind of a page on the OSU admissions site that kind of explains what a student takes and what it ends up transferring in as, but even that can be confusing to understand. And so with IB chemistry, it depends on the level that you take. It depends on the score that you get on it. But if you do IB chemistry and you do well on it, you can get the entire first year of general chemistry satisfied. And so if you're doing a major that, say mechanical, you don't need more than a couple terms of chemistry to do our mechanical engineering major, then you won't have to do more chemistry. If you're planning to become a chemical engineer, yeah, you're absolutely going to need more chemistry. You're going to have to take organic chemistry and physical chemistry, because that's a very chemistry-based major. So it depends. And the exception to that also is computer science. They don't have to do any chemistry at all. So the answer is potentially you don't have to do more chemistry depending on what you get in IB chemistry or AP chem. But it also just depends, which is the answer for a lot of things. And before I forget, I wanted to go back to the question about MECOP internships. So MECOP is a program that is, it's a multi-discipline, multi-company, multi-university program, and it's basically created so that students can apply to the program typically during their second year of curriculum. So kind of they're almost ready to be taking those 300, 400 level junior, senior classes. And so students from PSU, OIT, there's probably a few other places that I'm not thinking of, also apply to the program, and businesses basically agree to be a part of it. And they send representatives, they interview the students, they kind of decide who they want to come and intern for them, sort of a draft pick system. And students then would go out on 2 6-month internships, one with the first company, and they would do the process again and do a different internship their second time around. So it's a competitive program, but we do have lots of students that do MECOP, and it's a great opportunity for students to leave college with a year's worth of engineering experience. A lot of our students might get a job through MECOP also afterwards. They're also getting paid while they're doing it. So MECOP's a great opportunity, but it's not the only opportunity. There's tons of other ways to have an internship, and not all of our programs or not all of our majors can do MECOP. There's a few that can't, like ecological is very specific. So those students would probably go and find different internships. But if a student has a specific place in mind, like they want to work at NASA and they want to intern at NASA, then they should just apply to do that instead of doing something like MECOP, which students don't get a choice where they get placed, but they are placed in their discipline. So yeah, it's a really cool, unique program, and we definitely encourage all students to check it out. But as you're just starting out, you don't really need to worry too much about it until kind of getting closer to your second year. I got all the questions. Are there any other questions?
Well, I was kind of curious, what are the most like popular engineering majors compared to the ones that are, I wouldn't say least popular, but not picked as often?
Yeah. So if you'd have asked me like 5 years ago, I would have said mechanical. And now I would change that answer to computer science. So we are seeing more and more students interested in computer science. We do have different options within our computer science programs, so students can kind of tailor their experience. And if they're interested in artificial intelligence or cybersecurity or robotics, and there's a whole list, they can do that, which is also pretty cool and unique. And since it is a big program, we have faculty that are doing cool research in all of those areas and more. So yeah, I would say computer science. Second would be mechanical. Probably after that, there's a lot that are kind of in the same range of like civil and maybe chemical engineering. And then there's some that are newer, like architectural engineering is only a few years old within OSU, so it's definitely growing. And then there's some that are pretty small, like nuclear and ecological, industrials, or some of our like smaller programs, as students tend to find out about a lot of those things later. Like that, definitely students who come in knowing they want to do nuclear, but there are, I think, more students that kind of choose some of our smaller majors later just because they didn't know about it early on, and then they decide, that actually is the better fit for them. I don't know if Seed, if you want to add anything to that.
No, yeah, I think that was perfect. But like you said, right, it's that varies so much, right, across the years. Like if in 5 years, it'll probably be something different. So it just kind of comes and down in waves depending on, the economy and what kinds of jobs are out there. So, all that to say, like for students, don't choose a major based on its popularity, because that will change in 5 to 10 years. So, yeah.
And kind of going off that, job wise, what is the I know they're all kind of different areas of expertise, but what's the job outlook for like engineering in general?
Yeah, I would say overall it's very good. We have most of our graduates are getting a job within 6 months or less, unless they're deciding to not get a job right away because they're going to grad school or they're doing something else. But yeah, we have lots of students who are getting multiple offers before they graduate, and it depends on the job, the students, where they want to go. If your goal is to stay in Corvallis, Oregon, after you graduate, it's a little bit harder maybe to find an engineering job versus if you're willing to go wherever. And I work with first year students, so I don't have as good of a sense of what our students are experiencing upon graduation, but I do know that our students are getting job offers that have really good pay and really good benefits and opportunities to go lots of different places.
And now there's a question in the chat, and it says, I did not see aerospace engineering as a major. Is that an option, or does OSU not have that major?
Yeah, so we actually have an aerospace minor, and so that goes along with mechanical engineering. In theory, other students could declare the minor, but it has so many of the courses that you need to take the aerospace classes that are mechanical engineering students. It's pretty much mostly for our mechanical engineering students. So if you are interested in aerospace and you come to OSU, that's usually the recommendation would be to major in mechanical engineering and then do an aerospace minor. And it basically adds on an additional class that you take, focus on aerospace, and then you take some specific electives towards that can like double count for your other degree requirements in your senior year. So we do have faculty that have an aerospace focus, and so even though you're not an aerospace major, you can definitely be applying for jobs that are in the aerospace industry. We have a really active and strong club in the rocketry club, which is not its actual name, but that's basically what they do is develop and shoot off rockets. And so a lot of those students are interested in the aerospace minor. And we have definitely students that have gone on to work in NASA or Boeing or other industries that are aerospace related. There's very few schools that I know that actually do offer aerospace majors. They are out there, but I think just doing mechanical with an aerospace minor can prepare students, I would think, mostly, as well as having an entire major in it would.
Okay, well, I think that it's all the questions, but students feel free to put them in the chat. We can still get to them. And then I just wanted to go over one more thing. So you guys are open for tours now, right? You guys said that. Okay, and do they just, can they email you, or is there just a general campus email that they can get in contact with to set that up?
Yes, great question. Great question. So we are offering in-person tours every single day at 2 p.m. Well, and every single day, I should say Monday through Friday, which might be hard for students who are in school still at that time, but and I'll put a link in the chat shortly. So we have those in-person tours that happen every day from Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. But we are also still offering our virtual tours every Monday and Friday at 3 p.m. And those will probably continue being offered for forever, regardless of COVID. And so I'm going to put that link in the chat just shortly. But I was also going to mention, we do have a lot of events coming up as well. They're all in person. We actually have an event coming up in April, and I'm blanking on the exact date, but we have like an open house happening in April for students who are still, kind of shopping around and figuring out where they want to go. It's kind of like an open house sort of thing that is mostly focused for like sophomores and juniors in high school, that are just starting their search process. So I'll put that link in the chat as well, so you can see the date and you can sign up for it, and you can come, with your family or something like that. So I'll put those in the chat shortly.
Okay. Also, students, we are also doing more programs, events with OSU. I believe we have OSU College of Engineering ambassadors, I believe. That's coming up in April 5th. We also have 3 alumni so far, or 4, no, 3. Chemical engineering, industrial engineering, and bioengineering. So I'm going to go ahead and put that link in the chat in case you guys are interested in learning more about, OSU alumni, what they got from, going to OSU, and, how they're doing now today. But yeah, besides that, I think that was all the questions the students had. I just want to say thank you guys for joining us today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you for having us. And I put the 2 links there for both the in-person and virtual tour options and signups. And then I put another link there for our event. It's called Spring Preview. So that's where, like, an event that I was mentioning for mostly sophomores and juniors in high school to go. It's happening April 2nd. So I also put that link there. And then I'm going to also put the link. I'm sorry we're dropping so many links here. We maybe should have done like a document or something, but I'm going to put just one more time. This link is if you're interested in receiving more information about OSU and our upcoming events and all of that, you can actually fill out that form and you'll be added to our student database, and then we'll be able to send you tons of information for you to come here, explore more about OSU.
Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.